So why blaming yourself is limiting your ability to do better as an autistic? Because I used to blame myself for everything when I was younger, and it led to very self-destructive thoughts, and it was very dangerous to think that, even if it is your fault. So with that in mind, let's get straight into the video.
Get to know me personally with my one-on-one coaching. First call is absolutely free, so check that link out in the description after this video.
So the first thing to think is, what does this look like in someone's mind, or my mind, or your mind? Because if you have a clear understanding of the idea and the reason why you think that, it makes it so much easier to resolve the problem. Where if you just look at the problem and look at it as one thing, you're not really going to get an understanding of, well, why do I think that? You're not going to get an understanding of that. You're not going to be asking those questions. So the reason why I blamed myself was because I framed it negatively in my head, and I framed everything that I thought about negatively. So for example, if something simple were to happen, like, oh, I don't know, that person reacted like that because of me, like, I would always blame myself and think it was my problem, instead of thinking, well, what are they thinking? What are they feeling? What's going on inside their head? So because as a child I remember my earliest memory at kindy when I got put down and someone must have said, like, oh, you're nothing or something, and that stuck with me to this day. Like when that kid said that self-destructive thought to me, when that kid said you're an idiot or you're bad, I don't remember the exact word, but it was something that really made me feel sad, because I wanted to give the world to everyone, and what did I get in return? I got that person saying that to me, saying that rude thing, which I was never hoping for. So I think from then onwards, I believed that, and I believed, oh, I was nothing, I was an idiot, or whatever he said. I don't remember the exact word he said, but I remember just standing there feeling so bad and feeling so unhappy and feeling like maybe he's right. I think he's right. I actually really believed it, which is what kids do. They believe whatever is said to them, which is unfortunate, but that's how it goes, I guess. So let's get back to the reason why I thought this self-destructive thought, because maybe it was because I thought I would get everything in return. So if I did everything perfect and I did everything good, I would get that in return, or I would reap rewards from that. So when something bad would happen or something negative would happen, I would think, well, I've done all these things, I've tried to be a good person or whatever it is, and I haven't got that in return. It's so easy for me to blame myself because I've already framed in my head that just because I'm doing good and I'm being good, I'll get that in return. So of course I'm going to blame myself. I'm going to blame it all on me because I expected the world, because I tried to give the world to everyone else. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe all the things that I did weren't the world. But in my own head, I tried to give all that, even though I knew I couldn't, because in my own head, because I'm autistic, I can't show that. I can't feel that and give that. So that's a mindset that I had. That could be yours too. I'm not too sure. So you really have to think why you're blaming yourself. So there's always a reason as to why something happens. There's always a cause and effect. You can't just say it's just happened because it's happened. That's not the case. Everything that happens has a cause, and everything past that has an effect. So what caused you to think that? What causes you to frame that in your head? To blame yourself? Maybe the reason is what I just said about myself. Because I gave the world to everyone else, so in return I wanted the same back, but I never got that. So what else do I blame? Of course I'm going to blame myself, because I gave the world to everyone. So what did I do wrong to not get the world, not let other people give the world to me, or let other things be given to me? Not given to me, but you know what I mean? Like, in my own head, I thought I would get what I wanted in return, but I didn't. So at the moment, you might be thinking, Jaden, I just don't know. I just don't know where this came from. So that's where you really have to go back and take yourself back to, it could be something from your childhood. It could be something recent. It could be a past trauma that has caused you to think that way. Because we know everything's got a cause and effect. So what caused you to think that way? You don't want to think, okay, what's causing me now to think that way about that negative thing? So say something happened right now, I don't know, I accidentally tripped over. And then I thought, oh man, that was all my fault. Well, what could be the cause of you thinking that? Not because you tripped over on whatever that thing there, it's because of what happened in your childhood. Maybe what your mother made you believe, maybe what your father made you believe. Like, maybe you could trip on that, and then I could think, oh, oops, that was a mistake. I won't do that again, I've learnt. So it's the way it's framed in your head. Because if you were brought up, okay, every mistake is okay. Every mistake is a new learning curve. Well, you're not going to be self-destructive over yourself. You're not going to think negatively about what just happened. You're not going to go, oh, that's all my fault. I have no control over it. I can't do anything about it. I don't know what to do. It's all my fault. That's not the way to think. And I've tried thinking in that way, and it just led to more self-destructive thoughts. It's not that you think of it once and it's there once. It's the momentum you get from it. So you think of it once, and then it gets worse and worse and worse over time. And the snowball keeps piling up more and more and more until it's very hard to go back. It's very hard to control and get out the scope of what you know. So why can this mindset be bad? Well, obviously the first reason is because it can give you deep shame. And I touched on this on the previous video, which it might seem like both of these videos are complete opposites, but I actually believe they're very similar. If you keep the same framework and you keep the frame in your head the same, from this video to the previous video, it actually is similar. They're just kind of two different ways to think of it, because I've been on that side where I've thought about that and I've thought about this at the same time, which you might be thinking, how does that make sense? But it does. It really does make sense as to, well, you could blame the world, you can blame everything else for your problems, or you can blame yourself for the problems too. But I've felt both feelings, and they felt similar or the same. Just because it's still about yourself. It's, at the end of the day, these two videos, at the deep of your soul, the deep of your core of your heart, it's still about yourself. And that's what you need to get out of. You need to get out of that feeling of yourself. Because sometimes it's not all about you. Sometimes it's about that leaf on the ground or that tree there, you know? Sometimes it is about that bird up there. It's not all about thinking about you and your negative problems. So number 2 of why it's bad is because it can keep you at a stalemate in your life. So obviously you're not going to move anywhere. And if you don't move anywhere and you stay in the same place and you keep having the same mindset, well, you're not going to change. And that's why this mentality is very destructive. It's very destructive. So that's why you need to find a way to get out of this problem. This problem doesn't need to be here. You don't need to think negatively about yourself. There's no reason to do that. There's no reason to blame yourself for everything. You just can't blame yourself. Because some things are out of your control. Some things you can't adjust. Say, even if maybe something is your fault. At the end of the day, if you start to lean out of that mentality and you start to think of, how can I improve? What could have been done better? And what is the next step? Then you're more likely to take that step. Where if you're constantly thinking negatively and thinking about blaming yourself, well, you're never going to be able to take the next step. Or people never do. Some people never take that next step just because of their framework they have of this. Just because they framed it in their head in this negative way. Where if you start thinking, yep, I'm here, maybe that was my fault, maybe it wasn't my fault, doesn't matter, I'm just going to take the next step. So changing this mindset is very difficult and requires a lot of thinking. So if you need help with that, I'm happy to do a free coaching call. But other than that, the things that I can give you is to help you is try thinking of your past traumas. Think about why you might be thinking about this. Why? You just got to find the reason. Write it all down. Write down the reasons as maybe why you feel like this and why you feel like you need to negatively hurt yourself. Because that's what you're doing. You're negatively hurting your brain. You're not feeding it positive thoughts. You're just feeding it negative. So you're always going to be going down because you're always thinking negatively because it's a habit. Instead of thinking, okay, how can I improve here? What do I need to do to improve? And also, as I said before about my videos, both of those two videos are the same, this one and the previous one, destroying your ego. Even though you might think, oh, depressed people who are negative, they don't have an ego. But technically, they do have an ego. Because you're still human at the end of the day. You're still you. You still care about yourself. You still care about your worldviews. So that's why I talk about destroying your ego is the most important thing. You might not see it in this way, but I believe we all have ego. Even depressed people, even sad people, even negative people have ego because they still believe on what they think and what they think is right. Doesn't mean it's right. Or you could be on the other end of the spectrum where you could be so cocky and you're like, I'm the best at everything, whatever. You're still egotistical. So you really got to think, how can I destroy my ego here? How can I defeat my ego to stop me thinking these negative things and thinking of that everything's the problem and that I'm the problem? So anyway, that's the end of this video. Like and subscribe to watch more educational content about autism and how to be an independent young man on the autism spectrum. Anyway, thank you.